So today we're going to be discussing the big differences between community college and public university. Now, I've had the opportunity to attend both of these schools. I graduated from my community college, I would say, it's only been a few months, but I can barely remember. I guess that tells I'm getting kind of old. So I graduated last summer, and this is my second semester at my public university. So I think I'm starting to get a decent understanding of both, so I'm hoping to give a perspective of the benefits and cons of both, so that way students have an easier time deciding if they want to pursue one or the other, since we're getting close to the end of this high school year for students. Now, the first one I want to tackle is probably the most obvious and biggest question most people have, which is the cost. Now, it is very true that community college is obviously a lot cheaper, but maybe not for the causes that you think. Again, this is all dependent on the person who's listening to this. In my experience, I've had the benefit of my college being paid for because I'm not in contact with, or I should rather say I don't have a relationship with either of my biological parents. So the state awards me enough to pay for my classes, and that has been going on since I've been going to school. So again, this depends, but in my experience, community college is automatically cheaper. Even if your school is paid for, no matter how much money you're getting from the university, you still will have to take out some form of loans or will have to pay back some form of income because of the cost of living, which includes housing, food, transportation. Whereas if you go to a community college and if you have the benefit of living at home, then you're pretty much not going to pay anything, or you're just going to be paying for the classes that you get. Now, even if you aren't living at home, you still will probably be paying a lot less money overall, just because per credit hour, community colleges charge a lot less for the same exact classes, which is why even at the school I'm attending right now, which is the University of Central Florida, a lot of kids will go to the community college in the area to take some of their prerequisite courses, and others will stay at the university to attend their more specific or their major program. Another topic of the schools that I believe is looked over are the activities and clubs. Now, most people think community college is just for maybe the poorer class or the individual who wants to go back to school after starting a family or they already have a career. While this is true, there are plenty of people around the age range of 18 to 22 that go to school just because it is the cheaper alternative, even if they could afford to go to university. So it's not completely dead. You are going to have lots of activities and lots of clubs. Well, this also depends on the school. However, it will never ever amount to the amount of clubs and activities at a public university. I think at my school, I could be wrong, there are around 300 clubs versus the 20-something that were at my community college. Of course, the community college had a lot of your general courses, but the big difference is that there's a lot more specified clubs and activities at the local university, so that way you could meet more closer niche friends. If, for example, I am in the Harry Potter club, I'm going to have a bigger likelihood of making friends in such a niche group versus attending maybe the math club. Unless math is really your thing, if you're just trying to join a club, you're not going to find your best friend in a club in something so broad and general, at least in my opinion. And when it comes to other activities just going on at the school, there's not too many to speak of versus at a public university, you'll probably have something at least once a day going on. Another topic would be school pride, and this kind of carries on to I would say, other two topics I have listed. Now, when you attend a university, especially a big university like the one I go to at UCF, there, maybe not while you attend, but once you become an alumni, there is this sense of pride and community to other people that have also graduated from the same program, and it helps in a mental and emotional sense that you have this community built around you, but it also helps with outside opportunities that are available to you. It may sound very silly, but some people will give your application a better look if they're more familiar with your school or if they've also attended that school. And that jumps into the next topic, less opportunities or more opportunities. Now, this depends. This depends on, in my opinion, the location of your school. if your community college is in New York City, but your public university is in, I'm going off the colleges that I've looked at, in Tallahassee, you, again, it depends. There are a lot of X factors in between them, but in a general broad sense, you're going to have more opportunities at the community college. Excuse me for using those terms interchangeably. It's just that I know they're trying to get rid of that word community college and replace it with the word state or junior college. But back to what I was talking about, you're going to have more opportunities in the New York Community College versus at the Tallahassee State School. But if you have the opportunity to go to New York and you have a state school versus a university, you would have more opportunities at the university just because of the bigger resources are there. You know, people like to give a lot of slack to universities for costing a lot of money. And I definitely am one of those people. I think while you should pay for school, I do think it is a lot more expensive than it needs to be. But the resources that are available to you are very good. So, excuse me, I'm sorry for misspeaking. Not just the resources, but also the opportunities that are available to you. But that also goes into the next point, the resources. At my community college, I would say we had a decent amount of resources for students. And what I mean by resources are not just the opportunities for jobs or internships, but mental health counseling. We had an area where you could go for assistance in looking up internships or doing mock interviews. But comparing that to a public university where at my school, they have like a 3-story building dedicated to just internships and job opportunities. And I think they also have 200 mental health counselors just in their department, and there are also varying departments that offer psychological help. So because you are paying more than likely there will be more resources available to you. Now here is one benefit of the community college. I know it sounds like I'm racking on the community/state college, but there are some benefits. The smaller class size in the community college versus the larger class size. Now, I think for most people, we would all prefer a smaller class size just because there is more opportunity to get a one-on-one exchange or some help from the professor. You don't feel lost in the crowd. You don't feel like another number. You have the opportunity to not only gain more knowledge just because it is a more one-on-one experience, but more of a more interpersonal relationship with your professor. And don't be mistaken, professors at community college are just as intelligent as public universities. That's just where they happen to work. That doesn't ruin their credentials or take away from how smart or how dumb they are. I've had many teachers at my community college have such amazing accolades compared to some of my university teachers that just happen to be graduate students that are getting an assistantship. Now, the second biggest thing I feel like people, or the biggest misconception I believe people have, is the quality of education. And that ties into what I said. When people question the quality of education, they really don't understand the distinction between community college or public university. And in my opinion, most people who say that have not had the opportunity to go to both. They've either gone to one or the other, and the people who go to community college and say this just had a very bad experience in my opinion, and I'm sorry that they went through that. Or they went to a great university, got a great education and a great job, and just said, well, I was able to achieve these opportunities and it was so amazing that I can't imagine going to something lesser. The quality of education is not dependent on the school. It's dependent on who the school hires. You could have the most amazing, insightful teacher at a community college and then have the worst professor at a public university. Well, I've had the benefit of not having to do almost any gen ed classes since going here. I will have to probably do one more language course just because of the program I'm in. But the stories that I've heard are just horrendous. And the reason I would lean a little more towards community college in some circumstances is because when you're a professor and you have 1,000 students and you have to grade 1,000 papers, even if you have a teacher assistant, it's very likely that the quality drops just because you have to focus on so many people at once. And this may not be dependent on the professor, just maybe overworking them or excessively adding students to the course. You could have them teach a 30-person class and they could be the most amazing professor in the world. Give them 300 students for a class, they're probably going to have to stumble and fall some of the times when it comes to teaching and grading, just because there is so much more to do. Now, This is also another gray area. It is also dependent on the major or courses you're trying to focus on. For me, I was an art major, and as most artists know, I shouldn't say was, I am an art major, but as most artists know who go to art school, every single class and every single professor is completely different, even if the titles of the classes are the same. One example that I can give from my personal experience is that at my community college, they taught the art of drawing in so many different ways with different teachers. And then once I get to this university, they just essentially tell me, no, just throw all that out the window. We're going to be teaching you a totally brand new, more effective way of learning. And the drawing technique was absolutely amazing. I feel like they really hit it on the head with how to nail it. But that's also the case for my program. And I think of a lot of the humanities programs where you are a little more loose in what you can teach. In terms of STEM programs or STEM classes, like math, physics, biology, it really doesn't matter, in my opinion, for the lower level courses, just because all schools in the state that you're attending have a certain standard that they have to reach. You are going to be learning from essentially the same material and same books. It is dependent on how good your professor is and how effectively they can teach, and how much you're willing to do some outside learning. You are going to be learning the same exact thing in your biology course if you went to community college as your biology course at your public university. The only difference being you will probably have 300 students in your class versus you get to sit down in a nice quiet room of 20 people and ask more questions. So I think in terms of the quality of education, it varies, but for an ability to get in a one-on-one area with your professor and get some more focused learning, community college definitely has the upper hand, especially when it comes to gen ed and STEM courses. With arts programs, it kind of varies. The next thing I wanted to talk about was also flexibility. Flexibility is very important, I think, when it comes to school, and this isn't just for people who are going back to college after years of not attending. Everybody needs some form of flexibility because once you're going to school, you're going to be doing internships. You're going to have a part-time job probably. You're going to be taking care of your family and relationships and all this and such. So you need to find a balance in life. School is not going to be all of your life. And which of these two options offers the best balance? It really, really depends on the specific school you're looking at. Most people would probably answer community college, and I think in a general sense that probably is more true, but in my personal experience, I have had the ability to take all online courses at both my community college and my public university. And that allowed me to completely balance what I was doing at that time. And the more I think about it now, the bigger the university, the more they're going to be offering a lot of the same classes. There's going to be a lot more biology classes offered at your public university than at your community college. And you could align that with your schedule a lot more so than you probably at a community college where they're going to offer maybe 4 or 5 of that course. So it's sad to say there's not going to be a perfect answer for a lot of these questions when it comes to community college versus public university. It's a very independent question. In my personal opinion, and in these final thoughts, I would say if you have the benefit, if you live in a great home with a family that loves you, and you're not too far from your community college, and you're going into a program that has a very base understanding of what's going to be taught, then I would absolutely 100% recommend going to community college, just because it would, in my opinion, be unwise to spend money on something that's unnecessary, even if you crave that college experience. I completely understand that. That was something I craved for a long time, but in terms of long-term cost, I would definitely say go to community college. Now, if you live in a home that's maybe not so nice, or you live in an area that's not of your best interest or in your personal safety, I would definitely recommend going to university. Or if you live in an area that doesn't have a lot of opportunities, then I would definitely recommend going to university, just because you don't really want to stagnate. You want to keep on going. And if community college offers that, then great. But if you feel like it doesn't, or if it's not going to help you in the long term, if you feel like getting to university now is what's going to get you to that next level or get you to that next step in life, yes, absolutely go to a university. So I think I've covered almost all aspects that I can focus on when it comes to school. I try to be completely unbiased because I don't lean one way or the other. I think that this is a very hard question to ask, but it's also something that should be looked at because I hate to see kids completely dismissing the idea of community college just because they don't like the idea of staying home. Granted, again, like I said, if you live in a very, very bad situation or you live in a situation where you need some form of immediate escape, then I understand. But if you have some, like everybody does, some personal problems with your parents, I would keep this in mind for the most part. For the most part, because I can't speak for every parent, most parents tend to let up once you become an adult. Hell, even once I turned 18, 19, I started paying rent. And it wasn't very expensive, but I was treated more as an adult than I was in high school, where they just kind of let me do my own thing. Even though I was living under their roof, I was taking care of myself, I was going to school for myself, and all I had to do was contribute a little bit of money to the house. So if you feel like your situation isn't so bad, then trust me, community college is definitely better. I know most people just want to get out of their house and be independent, but the flip side of that is you're going to have this illusion of being independent if you go to college. Because number one, your parents are going to have to fill out your FAFSA. No matter, unless you have special circumstances like I or a couple people did, your parents are going to fill out your FAFSA. You're still going to be tied to them to some extent unless you're filthy rich and they just gave you money and they said, go do what you want. You're going to have to rely on your parents a little bit. And even if you don't, and you just try to be completely independent, you're dependent on the school for your education, for your first year, for living, because most schools force you to live on campus for your first year. So don't give up thousands of dollars just because of these misconceptions about community college and this sense of independence. You're really not going to be independent for the most part until you're about to finish or when you're finishing school, because that's when you start to really get on your feet as an adult. I don't think any 18, 19-year-old, for the most part, is independent when they're going to community college, I should say, not in a broad sense. Or any college, I mean. Sorry for misspeaking. This is the first podcast that I'm doing, so I'm still trying to figure out the format. And that's going to be it for this discussion, guys. To cap it off, it completely depends on you, what's best for you, and what's best for your family, because a lot of the time they are paying out of pocket if they're making enough money. So sit down, have a discussion with them about what you think is best for you, and go from there. If you guys enjoyed this and want me to continue talking about school, I could have other people who have gone to community college, or one idea was having my friend who goes to a trade school and get his opinion on what trade school is like versus a standard school, because we met at community college and he transferred to that school. And also leave in the comments down below any other topics you would wish to have me discuss or anything you feel like should be critiqued or added. Alright, this is William and I'm signing off.